guys, are we ready to talk about books? I haven't talked about books on my channel in a little while and I really miss it, and so I'm back to talk about like the favorite books that I've been reading this month. I think the last few weeks. Okay, these ones are fun. Well, they're kind of October-y, I think. First of all, Wuthering Heights. Oh, I'm such an Emily Brontë fan. And I just think her writing is amazing. I've always loved Emily Brontë and I'm kind of rereading this at the moment. And I'm at the end part. I'm at the last few chapters and I'm obsessed. I mean, it's such a brutal and horrifying story, and it is definitely a difficult read because it is so intense and psychologically so painful to read, but I just love how she wrote the psychology of these characters. I love how complex they are. I'm so fascinated by them. There's so much that you can find in this book that you want to read it more than once, 100%. And I know that the movie's coming out in February, Emerald Fennell's movie with Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi, and I really do want to see that. And I wanted to refresh my mind from the novel. And I know that it's Wuthering Heights, so it's not, you know, taking this word for word, but I hope it does the book justice because it is such a brilliant book. It's truly a masterpiece. But what's interesting that I didn't know is that there's 3 volumes of the book, and I'm always like, where's the 3rd volume while I'm reading? And it's Agnes Grey, which was by Anne Bronte's the 3rd volume. That's how they published it. It's like a sister anthology kind of work, and I know that the first works that the Bronte sisters published was an anthology of their collected poetry, I'm pretty sure. So there's just so much interesting history about all of them, and it's so cool that all 3 sisters wrote. When this first came out, it was so controversial. It caused such a big stir because of the fact that like it was so psychologically dark and twisted, but you know, it's so interesting because of course there are people like this, and there still are people like this, and so it was just very much talking to like a part of human nature that didn't often get represented in novels. And I know that when the 2nd version came out, Charlotte Brontë tried to edit it and change it a little bit, and that became the predominant version that was read, but that's changed. So now I think scholars prefer to go with the original. However, apparently there's no original document in existence, or at least that can be found. There's no original manuscript, so what we go by now is like the 1st edition that was published. And so we don't know what it was before that. Emily Brontë wrote this at 27, which is just like mind-blowing because it's just so, yeah, such a masterpiece. I'm really enjoying this. Enjoying doesn't sound like the right word because it's so dark. It's such an experience reading her work because even though it was written in the 1800s, it feels so fresh. And reading it is a challenge for the mind. And like you have to piece together, there's like different storylines and things. It's so interesting and intricate. But what is cool as well is the way she writes characters. I'm just very taken by. And I also love that the setting is like 2 houses, the Grange and Wuthering Heights, and that everything unfolds between these 2 homes. And we don't have to go on like some whole journey outside of that and so far away in order to experience so much drama, tension, and such a huge epic story. So that's really cool about Wuthering Heights. Okay, next book is We Love You Bunny by Mona Awad. And if anybody's been watching for the past few years and has seen my like book reviews and book videos that I used to do back in the day, I read Bunny when I was studying last year. I think it was last year when I was at Cambridge and I was doing my master's in creative writing, and these characters in the Bunny books, they're MFA creative writing students, and it's just, I think I read the first Bunny at the perfect time because I read it while I was literally on campus, like in writing workshops, and it was just very uncanny. And not to say that it's like the same thing, it's obviously like intensified and dramatized to a different level, but there's so many kind of tropes in there that were very amusing to me at that time and everything. So I do wonder if I'd read Bunny at a different time, how I'd feel about it. And now that I'm reading We Love You Bunny at a different time, I do feel differently. It's a different book too, and from what I've heard, there's been mixed opinions. Like some people love OG Bunny way more, and some people actually have preferred this. And I'm only a little bit of a way through. I'm buddy reading this with my friend, and we both loved Bunny during that time at being at uni. And I've been very excited to read this, but because I've been reading it alongside Wuthering Heights, I just have like been so immersed in Wuthering Heights that I can't really look anywhere else. Yeah, I think I need to finish Wuthering Heights and then come back to this, but it's just so tonally like modern that it's kind of, I need to get my mind back into this kind of storytelling in order to get into this, I think. But what I do like so far is we've changed perspectives. From the first book we were reading from Samantha's POV, and here we finally get to read from the bunny's POV, and the bunnies are the 4 other students in her fiction cohort in her degree. I mean, if you've read the first bunny, you know it's a very, what would we say, volatile group of people. Volatile and intense and complicated and kind of trope-filled group of women. But it's so, I don't know, I think I'll always have a little spot for Bunny then on my shelf because it's so nostalgic to me already, like, and it really takes me back to that time of being on campus. So far we're reading from the bunny's point of view what we know from Samantha's point of view, except stuff that we miss because Samantha talks more about her second year, and the bunnies talk more about first year so far. And we're getting to swap between POVs, so I'm on to the second POV, but I think it will continue to kind of swap around. And I know when that happens in books, I always have like a preferred POV. So I'm curious to see what's going on, like how I feel about this here. I already have one I prefer out of the 2. There's so many interesting things about this that I'll get into in another video. It's so tongue-in-cheek and it's so kind of this time right now. And Bunny for me is so of my last few years. It just like personifies that time to me. I'm gonna keep reading and we'll see how that goes. I'm so kind of curious to see how I feel because I remember being so pulled into Bunny, except for the grotesque like violence. I did not like that, especially because I love bunnies. Yeah, so beware if that's a thing for you, maybe you won't enjoy these books. But I was engrossed into the characters and into the setting and into like the kind of dynamic of these students, which I do think in some ways Mona captured well, in other ways is tropey. But that can be very entertaining, and here I'm curious to see how much I feel engrossed in it. So far it's been a bit like, in moments I am, in moments I'm not, so we'll see. These are not really full book reviews, these are more like, this is what I'm reading right now, and I don't know yet how I feel about it. Like, I'm still deciding how I feel. Well, not Wuthering Heights, I already know how I feel about that. Oh, such a good book. If you haven't read it, go and read it. I'll come back to that. I think I will do like a full book review in another video. What I've been reading, another 3rd book. I keep these all on like my bedside table, and then when I wake up I pick one up and I read before I do anything in the day, and at night I read before I go to sleep. But yeah, I've been reading LA Woman by Eve Babitz, and I read Didion Babitz earlier this year, and that was such an interesting book, and it made me want to read some of Eve Babitz's work, which I had wanted to read before, and one of my friends had recommended some to me, but I hadn't read any. And I think this may not have been the best one to start with. I was not recommended to start with this one. This is the one I had, so I just went with that. And I kind of felt like a shorter book to get into reading because I was having a little bit of a reading slump, which clearly I'm not anymore. This is about 2 women, Sophie and Lola, who live in LA, and I think it goes between time frames. So far it has been, it's jumping around because Sophie is like, I think the generation younger than Lola. I'm pretty sure it's set in the 60s, but I'm only a little bit, maybe I'm close to about 1/3 through. It feels like non-fiction to me. It's definitely autofiction, at least to some degree, from what I read in the biography of Eve in the Didion Babitz. And I know that she didn't get like the best praise for this book when it came out, but then a lot of people do love it too. And I do love a good autofiction book, and I like reading like female authors in this kind of diaristic style, so I was down for this. I got pulled into this book quite quickly, which is good. But yeah, I haven't finished it yet because I got swept away by Wuthering Heights. So that's about all for everything that I've been reading at the moment. I'm gonna finish those 3 books and then get started on some other books. So let me know in the comments if you have any recommendations. As always, I love your recommendations. Also, I'm thinking of doing a Q&A, so if you have any questions for me, just leave them as well in the comments or DM me on Instagram. And now I'm off to read while it's raining outside and to have pizza. This is my ideal weekend evening, like going out and doing something fun, and then on a rainy night being inside reading. And what more could I want right now? A cup of tea, a book, a movie. I've actually been watching Brontë by Booktube. I love Booktube. I read her book Too Much and Not in the Mood, non-fiction. So good. If you haven't read that, highly recommend. She's a magazine editor and she's just like such a cool, interesting woman. And Brontë I read like when I was a teenager. Made such an impression on me, especially like how Françoise Sagan wrote Cecile. I love her character. I know you're not meant to love her, but like as a teenager I did feel quite drawn to her. I'm curious to read it again, and now I've watched like a half movie, ready to finish the movie now. I think I'll go finish that. I love making these videos, so make sure to like, subscribe and leave a comment if you enjoy.